Now let's talk about myalgic encephalomyelitis, or ME, also known as chronic fatigue syndrome. Campaigners reckon the disease now affects more than 500,000 people in France. That's because cases have shot up since the COVID-19 pandemic, with long COVID one of the causes. Symptoms range from constant exhaustion to life-threatening debilitation. We're joined now by one of the world experts in the field, Alain Moreau, director of the interdisciplinary Canadian Collaborative ME Research Network. Thanks for speaking to France 24.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
So if I've understood correctly, you have helped advance the science on this, particularly with your work on the genetic signature of ME. Just explain how that's changed our understanding.
Yes, in fact, is more related to the epigenetics, so which is a bit slightly different than genetics. So epigenetics means that there are alterations affecting the expression of genes, but they are not caused by mutations or any variation in the. It's due to different mechanism, and we discovered a few years ago that circulating microRNA, small non-coding RNA, are express a different signature in ME patient, which allowed us to develop the first diagnostic test that allow a rapid confirmation of a diagnosis of ME, but also we are able now to discriminate who is suffering of ME versus other conditions like fibromyalgia. And sometimes, and at least in 50% of the cases, ME patients also display a fibromyalgia as a comorbidity. So you may have both. So having a clear diagnosis and diagnostic tools that can rapidly from a blood sample allow such confirmation is a game changer for clinicians as well as for patients. So that will stop the medical errands and expedite the diagnosis, and eventually will assist us in the way that we can screen for therapeutic solutions.
So the hope is that patients can now go and get a blood test and be diagnosed with ME, and they can tell people, this is a disease I've got. You know, all of this about you just need to get off the sofa and, go for a bit of exercise. They can say, no, this is a diagnosed disease I've got, and this is something that I'll be suffering with for a long time.
Exactly, and I want to be really straight. ME is a physical disease, is not a somatic condition. Suffering from different system, from dysautonomia that will affect your vascular tone, and sometimes some patient will develop tachycardia, which is very debilitating, to sleep disturbance, immune disturbances, as well as other effects that may affect also your neuroendocrine system. So it's a real disease, and we can, through our deep phenotyping protocol, we are seeing changes affecting the brain, like change in oxygen level, the cognition. So they have some memory issues that we can monitor, especially when we introduce provocation maneuvers that allowed us to create post-exertional malaise, which is the cardinal symptom of this condition.
So these are the strides that you've made and the scientific community has made, but what are the research priorities now? What do we not know that we need to know?
Yes, so first of all, just on the clinical level, or even if you look at the molecular disease, the patients are not the same. So we are seeing at least 5 subgroups of patients, and these groups are very important because they are associated with some more predominant symptom, like there is a subgroup, a cluster that is more associated with brain fog, and another group with more, let's say, endothelial vascular dysfunction. So it's important to recognize that at the early stage of the disease as possible, because we can work more closely with clinicians and figure out solution, often at this stage right now, to reposition or repurpose existing drugs that call indications.
Whatever your version of ME, though, you must get very frustrated if you're a patient where you hear that the main treatment at the moment is just to try and manage your energy levels.
Yeah, see, this is often referred to pacing. So pacing is a very effective way to protect your energetic envelope, but you have to make choice. So if you want to go to the restaurant with friends, even if it's just a short diner, you may stop all your activities before and after for a week. So it's not a long-term solution. It's really uh, so that's why it's important to really use what I call precision medicine and adopt for the right patient at the right time the right drugs that can really target a specific mechanism. And we have done those steps recently, especially this year with some recent publications that we identify some other biomarkers that are probably the causal factors, and we can modulate those factors, and that should in long term prevent crashes. So what we need right now is to find additional partners from the private sectors to support us to translate the diagnostic panel from the bench to the clinics, and this is an extra step, needs additional funding, and we need to have expert in the adoption of clinical diagnostic tests, as well as to launch a new clinical trial, but not blindly, just using precision medicine principles where we can, I think, have a better success to bring something useful for many patients.
Okay, Alain Moreau, thank you so much for speaking here on France 24. That's one of the top experts in the world on the disease ME.